Thank Hashem that we're able to learn every day. We're learning we should have the basic English immediately. And the four Shlema for Chilmas Ben Sarah, Aaron David Alevi Ben Menuchna the Lester, and Avram Rafal.
And also Simcha Batester.
Four Shlemas. Okay, today we'll start Bayim Harishain Bereshis Behirakia. This is on Chav Zayin Amud Beis. Saying the Torah portions that were read by the Ma'amades, by the Israelites that were representing the Jewish people at the sacrifice. They would go to the either to Yerushalayim or to their cities, the synagogue in their cities, or a place where they would gather. Does it say exactly where it was? Miskansim la'areihem, doesn't say. They would gather in their cities and they would read Ma'aseh Bereshis. On the first day, they would read Bereshis v'Yihirakia. On the second day, they would read Yihirakia and Yikava Amayim. So two sections to cover the three aliyahs, sort of. It says Tana Bereshis B'Shnayim. There were two aliyahs in of the first section of the Torah Bereshis, and that was divided into two. It was the Kayin and the Levi. If you look over there, there's 5 psukim. Yihirakia be'echad, and Yihirakia is 3 psukim, and that's one person. That would be the Yisrael. It says Bishlam Yihirakia be'echad plus psukim. Okay, it's 3 psukim. Elaboratius Bishnayim. To do something here to that word. My timer, maybe. Hey, psukim haven't. It's only 5 psukim. We have a rule that an aliyah is supposed to be 3 psukim. You're not supposed to read less than 3 psukim. So we're asking, how do they divide 5 into 3? So there's 2 pshatim over here. Yeah, Ramesha says we'll do what we do in Rosh Chodesh, which is we go back 1 pasuk. Let's take a look. So Vahatanya or Vahatana Nakir Beter al Yefchis Migim Psukim. You're not supposed to read less than 3 psukim. So Rav Amar Doilik. Very good. Rav says that you jump backwards and you read 1 pasuk twice. On Rosh Chodesh we did it V'amarta lahem. We say a second time. It's usually forward. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Doleg, yeah.
Doleg. Yeah. V'doleg pasuk echad v'kiri mimashakara rishon.
He means jump back.
Okay. Shmuel Amar Paisik. Shmuel has another solution. Shmuel says you split it in half. Which pasuk? The middle pasuk. You get 2.5 psukim for the Kayin, 2.5 psukim for the Levi, and that's going to be good enough. I remember I met this guy. He learned in yeshiva, but he wasn't from. He was like a basketball coach at some JCC. But so he's talking to his friend over there that wasn't Jewish. He says, "What does the Talmud talk about?" This friend asked him. He says, "I went to yeshiva." The guy said, "I never knew you went to yeshiva. You never spoke about this." He says, "Yeah, I went to yeshiva." So what does it talk about? He says, "There's 2 guys holding on to a talis. This one says it's mine. That one says it's mine." So the guy says, "So what do you do?" He says, "You do what King Solomon says. You split it in half." We put the whole Torah together. Okay. So here Shmuel says you divide it in half. You split the pasuk in half. Okay. Rav Amar Doileg, my time Yomar Paisik. Why does Rav not accept Shmuel's view that you just divide the pasuk in half and it'll be 2.5 for the Kayin, 2.5 for the Levi? So Kasavar, he holds Kol Psukad le Paski Maisha Anan le Paskinan le. We don't say where the pasuk ends. Moshe says where the pasuk ends. In other words, the tradition, the punctuation of the text, we have already way back from the oral tradition, from the giving of the Torah.
But not the parshas or the prakim.
And no, prakim not, parshias yes. The way it's divided, the spaces in the Torah would also be part of that tradition. In other words, like the pei and the samach, the psucha, stuma, not the chapters. No. So psukim, it was just we know where to stop because we had a safe pasuk, right?
So it had psukim, but like went on indefinite.
Yeah. Well, it was actually those were considered a psucha was considered a new chapter, and a stuma was a new paragraph. It has its own chapter system. Yeah, who works on it? If you ever look at Sefer Parshias from Rabbi Elio Kitov, so he starts off with this parsha has a certain amount of psuchas and a certain amount of stumas. It could be. Now you can't find it.
It's indicated by something other than a space.
No, it's just the space.
It's just the space.
Yeah.
The space is the indicator.
Yeah.
Now the Rambam writes that where did he get the psuchas and the stumas? He writes in the Sefer Yad. He says he found he got it from a Sefer Torah that was in. They say that it was edited by Naftali Ben Asher, I think Ben Asher, that's in Tiberia or from Tiberia, and it was there before. Anyway, the tradition is that the Keter Ram Seva, the Aleppo Codex, is that original.
We have something that is no space.
What do you mean? Which parsha?
I'm trying to remember.
Oh,
We
Parshas
definitely
Vayetze.
have a
Parshas Vayetze. Parshas Vayetze has no break in it. There's no. Okay, so Shmuel doesn't follow. Rav doesn't follow Shmuel because Kol Psukad Le Paskin Meishan Le Paskinan Le. We're not allowed to stop in the middle of a pasuk. With Shmuel Amar, Paisik. Shmuel says you do stop. The Gemara says, "Umi Paskinan, are you allowed to stop?" V'amar Rab Chanina Kra. Rab Chanina Kra. That's his last name, like Cairo. He must have been a teacher of Mikra. He says, Tsar Gadol Hayali Eitzel Rabbi Chanina Gadol. I had such problems by Rabbi Chanina Gadol. Rabbi Chanina Gadol is Rabbi Chanina Bar Chama. He's the student of Rabbi Danasi. He was like a big sage, greater than, like a teacher of Rabbi Yechanan. He says, and I was teaching Psukim. He didn't let me stop in the middle of a pasuk. I had to ask and ask. I need to stop because the psukim, I can't teach the children the psukim that are so long. And he's just teaching children, and he's not allowed to stop in middle. So, and Shmuel says, yeah, you just stop in the middle of a pasuk to make a new aliyah. So Shmuel has some time on my. Shmuel says, why did Rabbi Chanina Hagadol allow Rabbi Chanina Krat to stop in the middle of a pasuk? Mishum d'lo yafshar. Because you don't have another solution. You can't teach them the pasuk without stopping in middle, without pausing. So by us, it's also not possible. You see, if there's a heter in one place, so there could be a heter somewhere else. So that's Shmuel's opinion. All we did so far was we explained why Shmuel says that you're allowed to stop. You're allowed to break up the sentence. We didn't say why he doesn't say to go back and do and to reread the pasuk from the earlier aliyah. Rav said that there was no problem. Okay, so Shmuel. My time my answer is gzeira mishum nechnasim gzeira mishum hayotzim. Very interesting problem. We don't want anyone to think that we read a pasuk of only 2 psukim. So let's say someone comes in late. Let's say like on Rosh Chodesh, someone comes in late. He only comes in by the Levi Aliyah. It says V'amarta Alahem. It's like what? Kayan only read 2 psukim. It's going to come up with a theory that you can read that you're able to read 2 psukim. let's say he leaves early, Kiddush Club. He's there for Kayan. No, that's not going to work. He leaves early,
He's only gonna get the last two.
and he only hears.
He was the first
Oh,
one who said three.
So he's gonna, when he leaves early, he says, "Oh, Levi's just gonna read two psukim." Thinks Levi's just gonna read two psukim because he sees that they read V'amartla. So that's gonna be the problem also by the Mamadas, by Parshas Bereishis. He's gonna come up with the theory that they're only reading two psukim one way or the other. So we have a gezerah not to do that. Yeah, Shmuel's more concerned about the latecomers and the early leavers. Yeah. Meisveit, the Gemara's a question. Parsha shel shisha psukim karinasa b'shnayim. That's an easy one. If it's 6 psukim, then you could divide it into 2 aliyahs. B'shel chamisha, it's supposed to be chamisha psukim. If it's 5 psukim, so Harisha, skip them. Harisha and Kara Gimel. The first one reads 3. Hasheni Kara Shnayim mi parsha zu v'achas mi parsha acheres. He goes over the break. And he reads one pasuk from the next one. That way he has a total of 3. V'yeshem and Gimel, and some say that he has to read 3 from the next parsha. V'shein maschilin beparsha pachs mishleisha psukim, because if you start a section, then you have to read at least 3 psukim in a total of 5. So the Gemara asks, according to the opinion that says that you're allowed to skip back, why doesn't he just skip back? And according to the opinion that says divide the pasuk in half, Shmuel, divide the pasuk in half. So the Gemara says, Shani Hasan, Disley Ravcha. Over there, we're dealing with that. Why not? Let him read further. There's no problem. Over here, we have a set, what we're supposed to be reading, similar to like Rosh Chodesh, that we have a topic that we're reading about. We can't just read into, Rosh Hashanah or whatever goes after Rosh Chodesh. We're not able to do that. So that's why by us, or by the Mamadas, we're talking about you're reading by Yom Rishon and by Yom Sheni. So we want to leave it right there. We don't want to just go into by Yom Shlishi. Okay. Yeah. In Chabad, we don't make extra aliyahs, so we don't really have to know these halachas of where to stop and all of this. But you go to a Chassidish shul, they make extra aliyahs and this, and someone has to paskin.
Is that right?
Yeah. Someone has to paskin. Well, where we're going to stop the next aliyah? You can't stop within 3 psukim of this. You have to read at least 3 psukim. Tzemach Tzedek, I think, held. The Tzemach Tzedek held, I think, that if you're only allowed to add aliyahs if the Balkaira at the time when the Balkaira was the one that was getting the aliyah. No. Like in some Sephardic shuls, when they call you up, you have to read. You don't just say the bracha. They call you up, you're like. Remember, I got an aliyah once. They're like, okay, bechavod. They tell me, and it's like, no, I didn't prepare this. So, but in such a case, they call you up. Then the Tzemach Tzedek would say that, yeah, you can add aliyahs in such a way. It's just when we have one person reading the whole thing, so we don't add in extra aliyahs. Yeah, could we do that in Chabad? I don't know. Apparently we don't, because on like Yud Shvat or Gimel Tammuz, when all the Chassidim want to get an aliyah for the yard site, so if everyone would would read their aliyah according to Tzemach Tzedek, it would work, but we don't do that. So probably there's another issue that's besides for this. Okay. Parsha Gedolah. Yeah.
What happens in Chabad when they're dealing with kiruv and they're bringing up individuals that are not necessarily observant and they need to get 7 proper aliyahs? Would they not bring on additional?
Yeah, usually in the Chabad house communities.
That's very common, no?
Yeah. Would they consider that someone that's they count for a minyan anyone that's Jewish. and they don't consider, even if they're Machal Shabbos, they'll usually consider them Tinik Shanishba. They didn't know the education.
But do
Whatever.
they consider them as a kosher aliyah?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, usually in
See,
those
in the Sephardi
communities.
show, we absolutely, I'm a gabbai of the shul, and we absolutely have to have 7.
Wow.
So we will give up aliyahs, but then afterwards you'll bring up additional individuals to make sure you have at least 7 kosher aliyahs.
Very interesting. Said that they will give someone an aliyah, even if it was Machal Shabbos, but they need to have 7 kosher real aliyahs, so they can add in extra. That's very interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it has to be,
Yeah.
public justification.
Yeah. Parsha Gedola, Karnes B'Shnayim, a large portion, we're on top of Chavches. A large portion, you read it by 2 people. B'Shachris, Ube Musaf, Ube Mincha Karen Al Piyam. There's a problem when you have 3 things in 2 subjects. 2 subjects in the sentence. You don't know where to put the comma. So you could read it like this. You could read it. Parsha Gedel Kernei said B'Shnayim B'Shachris Kama. Musaf Mincha Karen Al Piyam. Or you could read it. Parsha Gedel Kernei said B'Shnayim B'Shachris U'B'Musaf U'B'Mincha Karen Al Piyam. So the Gemara asks, Sibailo, Heichi Kama, what's it saying? Where do you put the punctuation? Where's the B'Shachris U'B'Musaf Kernei said B'Sefer? Karen means that they read it from a text. U'B'Mincha Kernei said Bal Peh. But by mincha, they read it by heart. K'karna Shema, as if they're reciting the Shema, which people can say Shema, they don't have to need a Sefer Torah. Or maybe what it means is, B'shachris karnei b'sefer, and then b'musaf b'mincha karnei al peh, k'karna Shema. And the musaf and mincha goes together. Yeah. Remember that sign behind my grandmother's building? Nana. It said, all violating no trespassing. Violators will be prosecuted.
Right.
And I remember reading it because there was no punctuation there. No trespassing violators will be prosecuted. Oh, so welcoming, right? So anyway, the comma, the period is very important. Okay.
No comma. No comma. Just no. Trespassing, passing. Say it again.
No trespassing violators.
So, but no comma.
Oh,
Trespassing
no.
violators.
I know somebody who got an elevator, signed 10 persons only. Where were you? I was waiting for the other 9.
Oh, yeah, that's
That's
right.
funny. What was the thing with the car thing? Right, stop,
No, he gets it. He was clever.
right turn.
Everybody.
There was something with the right turn on a red. Something about the right turn and stop and then make a right. But the sign said,
No turn on red. No left turn on red.
it says no, it says
No right turn.
turn on red after stop. So he turned and then he stopped. Okay. Okay, so the Gemara asks the question where to put the comma. So Tashima, come in here. Come and listen. The Tanya was taught in a brayso b'shachris u'b'musav nechnasan lebeis hakneses v'korin kederch shekorin kol hashana. Shachris and Musaf, they read from a Sefer Torah. U'b'mincha yachid koros al peh. My mincha reads it by heart. So very good. We have that's what we do with braysos. Braysos sometimes are written a little different. So we bring them in to tell me what's the pshat in the Mishnah. Amar Rabbi Yosi. Rabbi Yosi.
Just the opposite.
So Amar Rabbi Yosi. V'chi yachid yachal likris divrei Torah al peh b'tzibar. Is a yachid allowed to read al peh b'tzibar? Now you're asking a different question. You're asking,
There's a note here.
but you're not allowed to read anything bal peh, even if it's not b'tzibar. Dvarim shebiksav hiyater shaylam and al peh. Yeah, it's mamash halacha. Unless it's something that everyone knows. could be that Sefer Parshas Bereishis, everyone knows. That could be a heter.
The congregation would serve as a sort of prayer leader and read these chapters before the.
Yeah, that's what we're suggesting now, that there's an individual that's reading it. The Gemara answers, rather, it's not one person reading it, it's everyone is reading it to themselves, as if they're reciting the Shema. Just like by Shema, you don't have a leader that's saying Shema and everyone's silent listening. Everyone's saying it. Okay. But you still have a question that has to be resolved. Yeah. Okay, unless that's the answer. The answer is that Sefer Bereishis, the Parshas Bereishis, everyone knows. So my mothers do it every day, every week, maybe. Kol yom sheish by halal ein by maimed. Any day that there's halal, then we didn't do maimed we didn't do the mamadas by which prayer? By Shachris, I think. Yeah, ein by maimed by Shachris. If there's a korban musaf, then you didn't do it by ne'ilah. Is that interesting? Korban eitzim, then you didn't do it by mincha. That was Rabbi Akiva's. And then Ben Azai tells him that Rabbi Shua learned it different. He said, korban musaf, you don't do it by mincha. Korban eitzim, you don't do it by ne'ilah, and Rabbi Akiva accepted that. So, but halal, you don't do it even by Shachris. You don't do the special readings. Okay. It's a special day, halal. Or would it be Hanukkah? The Gemara asks, Ma hefresh bein zeh lezeh. Now, Rashi learns the Gemara's question that korban eitzim, discussing the korban eitzim, why does it push off the maimed of ne'ilah, but it doesn't push off the maimed of mincha? By mincha, they have the extra prayer. By ne'ilah, they don't. The Gemara answers, halal divrei Torah, halal divrei seifim. Mincha has a source in the Torah because Yitzchak instituted mincha. Ne'ilah, who instituted ne'ilah? Avram Yitzchak Yaakov is Shachris mincha ma'ariv. Who instituted ne'ilah? Yosef. No. No, it doesn't say it. So therefore, it doesn't have a source in the Torah. So that's why it pushes off the korban eitzim, pushes off the mamadas of ne'ilah. That's Rashi's pshat. Tosfos has a totally different understanding of this Gemara.
The rationale for pushing off something in the evening.
Yeah, that's the Gemara's going to ask.
Occurred in the morning.
That's the Gemara's going to ask. The Gemara's going to ask that. Okay. Tosfos learns my hefresh. If you see the top Tosfos, what's the difference in korban musaf to korban eitzim? Korban musaf pushes off mincha. Korban eitzim does not push off mincha. And the Gemara answers that korban musaf is a divrei Torah, and korban eitzim is divrei seifrim. What's korban eitzim? Korban eitzim is the people that donated wood. They get to burn some of the wood, or possibly. So that doesn't push off mincha or ne'ilah, depending on which way we follow. So it's totally different Gemara according to Tosfos. Right. There was a time that the Kayanim and the people would bring wood. Why do I need these days? What are you telling me? Telling me that this one would bring and this, there's going to be a big kiddush of some sort that I have to know not to prepare. But what do you tell? What's the big deal? So Amru, they said, Kisha'alu b'nei hagoyla, when they came back from the exile, leimatzu eitzim belishka, there wasn't enough wood. So va'amdu eluvis nadvu mishalahem, these people contributed on their own. They contributed wood. V'kach hisnu neviim shebineim, and what was instituted by the prophets then, shafilu lishka malei eitzim, even if we have enough wood, these people could continue to be the ones that give the wood. Shenemar v'agayrolis, the lotteries, Ipalnu al karbonatim, Hakayinim alavim va'am lahavi lebeis alikenu, lebeis avisenu, according to their father's house, litim mizumanim shana b'shana, levar al mizbeach Hashem alikenu kakasa b'seira, to burn the wood on the altar, as it's written in the Torah, that these people would continue to do that. That's in Nehemiah. So the Gemara tells us in Gittin about the three people, the three rich people. One was going to give grain, one was going to support the city with oil, and one with wood. The Gemara says that the wood was much more precious than all of them, because in order to cook a little bit of grain, you need such and such an amount of it. Basically, wood is oil, like what we talk about oil today. Oil, like Saudi Arabia. Yeah, that's wood. Okay. Over millions of years. No, I'm kidding. Okay. That's fish fossils or something. The Imam Kainim Leviim v'chol michulu, and together with them were the Kainim and Leviim. And now, who was together with them? What we said in the Mishnah was that there was one group there. This was B'chamisha Asr Bay, on the 15th of Bnei Zaso ben Yehuda. They brought the wood, and together with them was Kainim and Leviim, v'chol mishata b'shivtei, anyone that didn't know their tribe. Bnei Goinvai, Eli, and the people that deceived with a what was it called? A pestle. It was like a grinder. Bnei Kaitziktis, and the people that were drying the figs. They would join this. The Gemara now says, Tana Rabbanan, there's a brisa. Mahayu bnei Goinvai Eli, bnei Kaitziktis. Who were these people? So Amru, they said like this. Pamachas Gazra Malchus Gezeira al Yisrael. What's your version of this? Pamachas Gazra Malchus. I want to know if there's another text, if it says Malchus or Rasha or something. It says just Malchus. Oh, you have Malchus or Rasha? Okay, I have an old Gemara. It's mine just says Malchus. It's more politically correct. So Gazra Malchus Gezeir al Yisrael Shlo Yavi Eitzim L'Maracha. They made a decree not to bring wood to the altar. Shlo Yavi Bikurim Nishlayim, also not to bring the first fruits. Yeshiva praised Dias al Adrachim Kederach Sheishav Yeravim ben Nevat, and they put soldiers on the road, just like, or blocks on the road. Guards, actually, that's what it means. That just like Yeravim ben Nevat. Now you remember Yeravim ben Nevat made his kingdom in the north, and he didn't want anyone to go to Yerushalayim, so he built separate idols, one in Dan and somewhere else, golden calves, and he said that Eila Lekech Yisrael, this is where you'll worship, and he didn't want them to go to Yerushalayim, because they'd go to Yerushalayim, they'd see that Malchus-based David is allowed to sit down in the Azara, and he's not a real king, and he wouldn't be allowed to sit down. So he wanted no one should see that he wasn't really a king. So he put up guards. No one's allowed to go to Yerushalayim. Can't go visit there. Shlayala Yisrael regel. They shouldn't be Yisrael regel. Ma asu ksherim. So that was an example of what was happening here. That there were guards that didn't allow the people to get to Yerushalayim. So what did the good people do? Shabai Sadar v'Yerichet. I don't know what's the Yerichet Shabai Sadar is what it says on the bottom here. Heviu Sali Bikurim. They brought baskets of Bikurim v'chipim b'mektzos, and they covered them over with dried figs. V'natlon, they took them. V'ali al kisfeyim, and they put this pestle onto their shoulders. Kivin sheyetzel praised this when they came to the gates. Amr lehem, they said, Lahechanatam halchem, where are you going? Amr lehem, lasi shnei guli devera. You see, we have the dried figs, we have the press, this crusher thing. We're going to make cakes, fig cakes. And with this pestle that we have on our shoulders. Once they pass the what's it called? The border guards, the customs. They passed the custom. Itrim besalim, they adorned it with baskets. Vevim l'Yerushalayim, they brought it to Yerushalayim. And Tana heinim b'nei Salmoi hanatufti. This is b'nei Salmoi hanatufti, that they did this this act. Yeah, they would do this. Tana Rabbanan mahim b'nei Salmoi hanatufti. Who are the Bnei Salmin? If the Amr, they said, Pamachas, Gazar Malchus, Gezerah, you probably have Malchus or Rasha, right? Gezerah, Yisrael, Shleiva, Yitzim, Lamaracha, not to bring wood. So, Beshiva praised this aladrachim before we just explained the Bikurim. Isn't that interesting? But it mentioned before Eitzim. And now, but it didn't explain it. Anyway, now we just have the Eitzim. Yeshiva praised this aladrachim, Gederch Sheishav Yeravim and Nevat, aladrachim, Shlayal Yisrael Regal. People shouldn't be able to travel. Ma'asi Yerechet Shabaisai Hadar. What did the Yerechet do? Iviu Gezireim. They brought the pieces of woods, but also Salamis, and they made ladders. Vinichal Kaspeyim. They put it on their shoulders. And they went. Even Shagiu Etzom, and they come to the customs. Amalem Lahechamato Halchem, where are you going? Amalem Lavi Geislis Mishevach Shalafaneno. We're going to get the small birds from the birdhouse that's up in the tree. Ubasalame Shal Kaspeno, and we have the ladders on our shoulders. Even Shavarmam, when they passed, Pirkum, they took them apart. And then they brought the wood to Yerushalayim. And regarding them, it says, blessed is the righteous. The memory of the righteous is for a blessing. While you're the wicked, name of the wicked will rot. Yeah. Someone in Rhode Island, there was a time when all the Russians were coming. Anyway, there's a family that came. Apparently, they were wealthy. And what they did was they weren't allowed to take the wealth. They gave you special crates. You had to pack all your things in these like official government crates. So what this guy did was he bought these nails. They would search the thing, but he bought these like titanium nails, and he took apart the crates and he put them back with his nails. And anyway, he filled it up with whatever schmatas he filled up the thing. And when he got to America, he took it apart and he sold the nails. Anyway, customs tricks. Okay, so yeah, here they took apart the ladders. Be'esim by Bnei Pachas Mayav ben Yehuda. Okay, we're going to have a few names over here.
Nachman's chair.
Nachman's chair. How did they?
They took apart all the pieces and they smuggled them out of Russia. When they got to Yerushalayim, they put them back together again. It's on exhibit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Not long ago. No. The modern.
Okay, which day was Bnei Pachas ben Yehuda? Be'esrim bay. This is on the 20th of Av. Bnei Pachas Mayav ben Yehuda. Was there another Pachas ben Yehuda here? No. There was Bnei Arach ben Yehuda, Bnei David ben Yehuda, and then there was Bnei Pachas Mayav ben Yehuda. And then there's Bnei Adin ben Yehuda. So we have a bunch of different ben Yehudas. The Gemara now says, Tana, Bnei Pachas Mayav ben Yehuda, Hein Bnei David ben Yehuda. That's the same people as the Bnei David ben Yehuda. Well, we're going to see in a moment that that's a little problematic, because Bnei David ben Yehuda were on the 20th of Tammuz, and Esrim Bay is the 20th of Av. Okay, that's Reb Meir's opinion. Rabbi Yisrael Mehenim b'nei Yoav ben Tzruya. This is the descendants of Yoav ben Tzruya. Now, what happened? David comes from Mayav because of his mother, because of Rus, which is Yishai's grandmother, right, from Bayaz. It comes from Mayav. So when it says Pachas Mayav, it's referring to Rus. That's Reb Meir's view. Reb Yossi says actually it's Yoav ben Tzruya. Yoav ben Tzruya was David's nephew. Tzruya was it David's sister? Yeah. No, Tzruya. Yeah, Tzruya was David's sister. Tzruya and Abigail. Okay, so she comes through. Yeah, it's the mother. So she also comes from Maya. So that's fine. That's Rabbi Yossi's view, that it's Pachas Maya. Okay. Be'esrim be'elul b'nei Adin ben Yehuda. On the 20th of Elul, it's this Adin, son of Yehuda. Tan Rabbana b'nei Adin ben Yehuda. Heinem b'nei David ben Yehuda. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Okay. Now it's not Reb Meir saying this, but it's Reb Yehuda saying this, that this is Adin ben Yehuda is also Bnei David ben Yehuda. Reb Yossi Emer Heinim Bnei Yayev ben Tzruya. Reb Yossi says it's Yayev ben Tzruya. Now this becomes problematic because now we have Bnei Yayev ben Tzruya twice.
Yoav is related to David. Huh?
It's his nephew.
Not wrong.
Yeah, David's sister was Tzruya. Another Gemara quotes that there was one time on the first of Tevis where Bnei Parish brought a second time. The Gemara says, 1 second. When you say that it's a second time, you actually spelled it out. That it's, they're bringing a second time. So, Mani Masnisin, who's the author of our Mishnah? Lei Reb Meir, V'lei Reb Yehuda, V'lei Reb Yossi. It can't be any of the ones that we just mentioned because they had two. They had people bringing twice, and it didn't say that they were bringing a second time. So it goes like this. Reb Meir, listening Shabbai Bnei David ben Yehuda Shniya. Reb Meir has Bnei David ben Yehuda going twice. Reb Yehuda, listening Shabbai Bnei David ben Yehuda Shniya. He also has, if it's Reb Yehuda, he also has Bnei David coming a second time, and it doesn't say that. Reb Yossi, listening Shabbai Yayev ben Tzruya Shniya. Then say it's Yayev ben Tzruya. Then it's say Shniya. And it doesn't do that. So it says Leilam Rabbi Yossi, Trei Tanaya Liba de Rabbi Yossi. It is Rabbi Yossi. However, not everyone has to translate everything that Rabbi Yossi said exactly according to him. One of these will be translated that it's actually Yayev ben Tzruya, and one of them will be translated that it's not Yayev ben Tzruya, and that's why it doesn't have to say it twice. On the first of Tevis, they didn't have Maimet. Why? They didn't have the Mamadas because they had Halal, Karban Musaf, and Karban Eitzim. Halal because it's Hanukkah, Karban Musaf because it's Rosh Chodesh, and they also had the Karban Eitzim. They didn't have Shachris, Mincha. They didn't have the Mamadas. Amar le Markshish Beidav Chisla Ravashi. Maishna Halal, the Dachi Didei. Naftali, this is your question. When it came to halal, we say, don't do the mamadas because you're saying halal. Okay, so shachris is halal. You don't do the mamadas. Maishna musaf, the loidachi day. But musaf, you don't. When you're saying musaf, so you don't do the mamadas in mincha or neila. What about? What about Musaf? With the Mamadas and Musaf? Yeah, no? It's a basic question, no? Kainim nice and kapayim by Musaf, but when was the Mamadas done? Yemarishon, the Patrick Del Kernis Bishnia Baktana the Yachid, Beshachris, Bemusaf, Ubemincha, Nichnasim Vikarin Alpian Kikar Shma. Yeah, they would do it by Musaf as well. So this is a little bit odd that when it comes to Musaf, if you have Musaf, then you don't do the Mamadas in Mincha. What about Musaf? Oh, so one second. So when would you ever have Mamadas by Musaf? If you have Musaf, if it would knock it off every time you have it, then you would never have it. Right. Shachris b'musaf mincha nechnasim v'karnis al piv. By Neila, they didn't have it. They didn't read this. So what type of mamadas was by Neila? Must have been other things of fasting, other prayers. Let's see what the Gemara says. The Gemara asks, the question now is that why does Hallel push off the Shachris Mamadas and Musaf pushes off the Mincha Mamadas? Amalei Ravashi. Hashta the Lav Didei Dachi Didei like Kolshkein. You think when we meant that it pushes off the Mincha Mamadas, you think we meant that it only pushes off the Mincha Mamadas and not its own Mamadas? Of course it pushes off its own Mamadas. It's saying even the Mincha Mamadas. Amalei Hachi Kaminala. Says, that's not what I was asking. I was asking a little different. Why does it push off more than its own? It should only push off its own. Halal only pushed off Shachris. So why does the Musaf push off Musaf and Mincha? You have a point. Rabbi Yossi Taka holds like you, that Musaf only pushes off the Mamadas of Musaf, not the Mincha and Nila. The Tanya, Rabbi Yossi Yomer, Rabbi Yossi says, Kol Yom Sheyesh by Musaf, Yesh by Maimed. If there's Musaf, then there's the Mamadas. Maimed the Mai. Which Maimed are we talking about? Ilema Maimed the Shachris. Hatanakam Nami Hachi Kamar. You're talking about that there's Maimed and Shachris. Well, the Tanakam also says that there's Maimed and Shachris. We didn't say that if there's Musaf, you don't say the Mamadas and Shachris. Ela Maimed the Musaf. So it must mean that it's you say the Maimed and Musaf. So the Gemara says, Didei Nami Lei Dachi Ela de Mincha. Didei Nami Lei Dachi, it doesn't push off its own. Ela de Mincha. It must be that there's Maimed in Mincha. Carbonates Dachi. But Mincha carbonates pushes off. So it says El Labdini Ila. It must be, so there's no Maimed in Mincha either on that day. So it must be that it was by pushing off, it's you say it by Ne'ila. Shma Mina, this is Rabbi Yossi saying, that you do say the Mamadas. Shma Mina Didei Dachi, the Lav Didei Lai Dachi. It would only push off its own, but not anything else. So that would be the opinion of who was talking to Rav Ashi. It was Markshisha Breder of Tista would follow Rabbi Yossi's view that the Musaf only pushes off the Musaf and not the Mincha. Now the Gemara says, listen, Nami Bechad ben Nisan. The carbon Musaf carbonates him. Echad ben Nisan also had a carbonates him. And it has Musaf because it's Rosh Chodesh, and it also has Halal because it's Rosh Chodesh. We mentioned Echad B'Tevis, and we said that it has Halal because it's Chanukah. We said, well, this also has Halal because it's Rosh Chodesh. Amarava, very famous Gemara, Zoyse Meres, this teaches us Halela de Bereish Yarcha, Lav Deiraisa. Halal of Rosh Chodesh is not a Deiraisa, it's not a real Halal. Dam Rabbi Yechanan Mishum Shim ben Yitzadak. Rabbi Yechanan says, name of Rabbi Shim ben Yitzadak, Shmeina Siyayim B'Shana, Yachid Gaimer Behenes Halal. There's 18 days that an individual will say the entire Halal Be'Elohein, and they are Shmeina Simei Chag, 8 days of Sukkot, Shmeina Simei Chanukah, we're at 16, 8 days of Chanukah, Yom Tov Rishon Shel Pesach, the first day of Pesach, because we're dealing in Eretz Yisrael, we're at 19, full Halal, Yom Tov Shel Atzeres, which is also one day, we're at 20. No, I'm sorry, 16, 17, 18. I'm sorry, 16, 17, 18. I'm sorry. So we had 8 plus 8 plus 2. Ubegoila, and in the exiles, it's Esther Vechad Yaim. It's really 21. Why? We have 9 for Sukkot, Shmeinis Yimei Chanukah, and then we have the 8 days of Chanukah. Where are we holding? We're at 17, right? The Shnei Yamim Arishonim Shel Pesach. Now we have 2 days for Pesach. That's 18, 19. Beis Yom Tovim Shel Atzeres. In 2021 of Shavuos. Okay, 2 days of Shavuos. Rav Ikla LeBavel. Rav comes to Bavel. Chazinu the kakari lahalela b'reish yarcha. He sees that they're saying how Rav went to Eretz Yisrael to study. He went together with Reb Chia, his uncle, and he learned by Rabbi Danasi. Comes back, sees they're saying halal.
What is Ikla?
Chanced upon. He happened to be. Well, he was born in Bavel, but he went down to Bavel. He traveled to Bavel. Yeah, but I guess when he went to learn, he became permanent. Like Chazina to Kakari Halela Bereish Yarcha. He saw. It probably means when he first came. He saw that they were saying halal on Rosh Chodesh. Sabalaf Sakinu. He wants to say, hey, no, we don't do that. Given the Chazid to come medalge diluge, he saw that they were skipping paragraphs. Amar Shmamina Minagavisayim Biyadayim. It must be that it's Minagavisayim. It's not a real halal. Tana Yachid La Yaskal Vimhiskal Gaimer was taught that a Yachid doesn't say it, but once he starts, he can finish.
So he meant they're saying it the way we say it, by skipping paragraphs.
Yeah.
And when it says a yachid, is that someone who prays alone?
Yeah.
So they don't even say half to follow?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not the halacha.
Oh.
Taisus over here is a very interesting point. He says, some wanted to say that you don't say a bracha on halal. Aminag mevarchina. I have a proof. There's a minute. Right. It's a Babylonian custom. Apparently in Eretz Yisrael they didn't do it. Yeah, but halal not. So he brings a proof from the Gemara in Sukkah, where it says that by the Arava, he didn't say a bracha. There was a minig with the Arava to bang the Arava. They didn't say a bracha. You see, you don't say a bracha on a minig. Rabbeinu Tam, Taisus quote says, no, it's a proof from here that you do say a bracha. That a proof from here that you do say a bracha. Why? Because Rav comes to Bavel, he sees that they're saying halal, and he wants to stop them. He says, oh, they're skipping paragraphs. Oh, it must be that this is different. Why didn't he say that they didn't say a bracha? So maybe you want to tell me, well, he showed up late in Shul. So then, and he didn't hear the first part. So then Rabbeinu Tam says, then it should have said, Rav Ikla lebeit Knishta, not Ikla lebavel. Ikla lebavel means he was in Bavel and he was on time for Shul. It was late for Bavel, time for no. So it must be that he was there in the Shul on time, which means that they weren't saying a bracha. And nevertheless, he wanted to stop. He wanted to stop them because he thought it was the real thing, and it was only because they. Tosfos then concludes, according to this, you can't talk in the middle of halal. You see, it's this, this Tosfos on the side. Amar, Dimkain have a mafsek. Yeah, there's a Rabbeinu Yonah somewhere that says that Tosfos has no raya. Well, not that he has no raya. He says the fact that you're not supposed to talk in halal has nothing to do with the bracha. He says you shouldn't talk in the middle of Zemiris either. He says you're praising Hashem, you're starting to talk a conversation or whatever you're singing or whatever it is. Even if there's no bracha, you shouldn't interrupt. But anyway. Then he says, okay, whatever the case is, in Chabad, the custom was always that the Chazan makes the bracha. How does it work in Rabbi Shapiro's shul in Beis Menachem? Chazan makes the bracha?
It's gone back and forth, but currently the Chazan makes the bracha, yeah.
And does anyone announce? The Chazan will be mighty everyone with the bracha?
Nah, really, no.
Because I remember in the shul, in the Chabad house, growing up, still growing up, someone would say, the Chazan will be mighty everyone with the bracha. That was the minig.
Maybe because they didn't know, otherwise
Oh.
they would have said it.
Oh.
Not
Now,
in Chabad.
I'm sorry.
In Aventura Chabad, Rabbi Berswankin would say that, and then he would say, but the Rebbe would say a bracha.
Oh,
As an individual.
Uh-huh.
Just saying, I guess.
Vala kalkala sagt mir nicht. Right. Okay. What's the pshat over here? Why we skip these paragraphs in Halal? We thank Hashem for the good things. What about for the bad things? So you have to see the bad as good. Only at special simchas do you see the bad as good also. So we skip the Leilano Hashem Leilano. All of those have like a little bit of negativity in there. So it's only on a real Yom Tov that you can say those, where you actually at the level where it turns everything over. So yeah, so that's the okay. Let's leave it over here.
That's your shot, or your that comes from somewhere.
I saw that in a Yisrael something Reisman. I get a Chassidish email. I saw this. Yeah, I'm happy you caught on to that.
It doesn't
chat,
sound
no?
like it. It just doesn't sound. It sounds like one of these like or maybe, which is fine.
Yeah.
I just was wondering.
Yeah. I never heard the pshat. Like, why did they skip these paragraphs? Because those are the ones that have the suffering in it. Leilano Hashem Leilano. Why should the Goyim say? Why should the?
Right.
Oh, where you headed?
That was.
8 play. Uh-huh.